Welcome to a brand new deep dive of the Riffle, a podcast series brought to you by 10 Leaves. Today, we are undertaking a really critical deep dive into a corporate regulatory change. We're focusing specifically on the Dubai World Trade Center Authority, the DWTCA free zone. And if you're running a company there or you advise businesses in that region, this is not just some minor update. It's a fundamental shift in the playbook for structuring a company.
That's absolutely right.
We're talking about a whole new level of freedom to customize equity.
Yeah, and our source for this is Circular Number 17. It came out on September 29, 2025. And like you said, this isn't just guidance. It completely replaces regulations 15.8 all the way through 15.13 of the DWTCA company regulations.
So the old way is just out. This is the new rule book.
Totally out. The authority has basically given companies a whole new toolkit for equity design. So our mission today, really, is to unpack what these new powers are, what the limitations are, and how you can actually manage this new flexible equity.
Okay, let's dive right in then. The biggest change seems to be this new ability to issue different classes of shares. That's Regulation 15.8.
It is. This is the foundation for everything else. As long as you define it in your Memorandum of Association, your MOA, you can create shares with all sorts of different rights and restrictions.
And the DWTCA has been pretty specific about what's allowed, right?
Oh, very specific. They've laid it out clearly. For example, you can create preference shares.
Right. So those give you priority for dividends, good for attracting financial investors who maybe care more about income than control.
Exactly. And then there's the big one, voting rights. This is where it gets really interesting.
You can have enhanced rights, limited rights, or even zero voting rights.
Yep. But, and this is important, there's a cap, a maximum of 10 votes per share. You can't go beyond that.
A 10-to-1 power ratio. That could really concentrate control.
It could. They also explicitly allow for shares with restrictions on transferability.
Which is perfect for, say, keeping a company closely held among founders or in a joint venture. You get to control who is at the table.
Precisely. But with all this new flexibility comes some very important guardrails.
Okay, like what?
Well, first, all shares within one class have to be identical. Same rights, same terms, no special deals for one shareholder within Class B, for example. It keeps things transparent.
That makes sense. Uniformity.
But here's the most critical guardrail. The DWTCA has this exception to all the variable voting rights. For 3 specific foundational decisions, it reverts back to 1 vote per share.
So even if I have my 10-vote super shares, my power shrinks back down for the really big stuff.
It does. It's a protection mechanism. So the first one is the appointment of auditors.
The company's referee.
The referee, yes.
Yeah.
The second is a resolution to wind up the company.
Closing the doors.
And the third is amending the MOA, unless you're just varying class rights. So they're protecting the bedrock of the company from being, hijacked by that leveraged voting power.
That feels like a really smart balance. Flexibility with protection.
It is.
Okay, so that's how you can create the equity structure. Now, let's talk about managing it after it's been issued. We're moving into redemption and buybacks now, regulations 15.9 and 15.10.
Right. So let's start with redeemable shares under 15.9. A company can now issue shares that can be bought back later. One condition is that the shares have to be fully paid up.
So the company is essentially returning capital to an investor. But I saw a major limitation here, didn't I? Something to prevent the whole capital base from disappearing.
You did, and it's probably the most important rule in this section. Regulation 15.9.2. A company must keep at least 10% of its issued share capital as non-redeemable.
The 10% rule. So you need a permanent capital foundation. You can't build a company on sand.
That's the idea. It protects everyone. And what happens when a share is redeemed? It's immediately canceled. The company's share capital is reduced by the nominal value.
Nominal value, right? Not the market price. The value on the books.
Exactly. Now, moving on to a company buying its own shares or buybacks. This is under Regulation 15.10, and it's a bit more restrictive. It requires a special resolution.
Which is a high bar, usually a 75% approval from shareholders.
It is, and the restrictions are really about protecting what's left of the company. You can't do a buyback if it would leave you with no other shareholders, or only shareholders who hold, say, redeemable shares.
Again, ensuring there's a core of committed long-term capital holders.
And they are incredibly strict about where the money for the buyback comes from.
Okay, break that down for us.
The nominal value has to be paid from paid-up share capital or other reserves. But if you pay a premium over that nominal value,
The extra cash on top.
right, that premium has to come from profits, realized or unrealized, or the share premium account. They're making sure you're not using essential capital to fund the premium.
So you can do it, but you can't get the company's financial core in the process.
That's the principle. And unless the company decides to hold them as treasury shares, which we can talk about next, they're automatically canceled.
Perfect segue. Let's talk about Regulation 15.01, Treasury shares. These are the shares a company buys back, but doesn't cancel. It just holds them.
Right. And holding them offers a lot of flexibility. You can use them for employee stock plans, for example. To do this, you just need an ordinary resolution.
So a lower bar than the buyback itself. A simple majority.
Simple majority, yes. But here comes the hard limit. Treasury shares cannot at any point exceed 50% of the total issued share capital.
50%, that's a huge chunk.
It is. It's a hard ceiling. And while they're held in Treasury, the shares are basically put to sleep.
What do you mean by that?
They lose all voting rights, any right to dividends. They're just inert. The company can hold them, sell them, transfer them, or cancel them later, but they can't be used to influence governance.
That makes perfect sense.
Now, that brings us to the next piece, which is conversion of shares under Regulation 15.12. This is where you might change a share from, say, a preference share into a common share.
Given how carefully class rights are protected, I'm going to guess the approval for this is pretty tough.
You would be absolutely right. The bar is exceptionally high. You need a dual approval.
Dual approval?
Yes. First, you need a special resolution of all the company's shareholders. Then you need a second, separate special resolution passed by only the shareholders of the specific class that's being converted.
Wow, so the group being affected basically gets its own veto?
It's the ultimate protection. It ensures that a majority can't just vote to diminish the rights of a minority class.
Okay, so that covers creation, management, and conversion. Let's wrap up with the practical side of things. Regulation 15.313, the administration. How does a company actually go about changing the rights of a class?
So 15.1 Law 3.1 lays out two ways to do it. The first is to get written consent from shareholders who hold at least 75% of the nominal value of that class.
75% in writing? That's a massive consensus.
It is. The other route is to hold a separate meeting just for that class of shareholders and pass a special resolution. Again, a 75% vote.
So either way, it's hard to do. It reinforces that while creating these classes is flexible, altering them is intentionally rigid.
It is. The rights, once granted, are secure. And to keep the authority in the loop, there's a strict reporting rule. Any of these actions, redemption, buybacks, conversion, cancellation, you have to notify the registrar within 30 days.
30 days. That's a short turnaround for corporate administration. It really ensures their records are up to date with these potentially complex capital structures.
Yes, it's all about maintaining a clear and current picture.
So if we pull this all together, my takeaway is that this circular has really catapulted the DWTCA into the top tier of sophisticated corporate environments. You have these advanced tools, like super voting shares, but they all come with very specific guardrails.
That's a great summary. You have the 10% non-redeemable minimum, the 50% treasury maximum, all these little checks and balances.
It's flexibility within a very strong framework.
It is. And if you want a final thought for our listeners to chew on, look at Regulation 15.14.1.
Okay, what does that say?
It explicitly says that the authority can modify or issue additional regulations about share classes in the future.
Ah, so this isn't necessarily the final word. The rule book is alive.
It's a living document. And the provocative thought here is, if the framework is designed to be this adaptable, what does that mean for long-term governance planning?
It means you can't just set it and forget it.
Exactly. It means companies in the DWTCA need to be constantly vigilant because the rules that offer all this flexibility today might be fine-tuned tomorrow.
That is a very powerful point to end on, something to definitely keep in mind.
Indeed.
You've been listening to a deep dive of the Riffle, a podcast series brought to you by 10 Leaves.